Welcome to Office Hours. This series is going to be more of a discussion than a lecture format. And today I want to talk about the difference between two types of Christians that I see. There's many types, but these are two of the most significant types that I see. Those would be, firstly, the womb to tomb Christians. These are the people who were born, dedicated as children's ministry, teen ministry, young adults ministry, and they're basically walking the straight and narrow throughout the course of their life. And this is both on a religious adherence level and on the level of personal behavior. Then you have, in my opinion, the other type of Christians. I reference them in my Mathematics Behind Sanctification lecture, those being what I've termed the prodigal Christians. Drawing on the prodigal son, he squandered his inheritance away in sin. And these Christians are the other side of the story. The people who come from really bad backgrounds, really serious personal crises, and get saved by grace. There's a stark divide between those two groups. And it's no secret which group I am a part of. I am a prodigal Christian. Throughout this channel, I've shared a lot of my testimony with bipolar disorder, fraternity antics, everything like that. And I wanted to kick this off with just one fraternity story. Quick aside on fraternity stories. In the moment when they're happening, everyone thinks they're the coolest thing ever, and they're so much fun, and then some people will spend the rest of their life reminiscing about these glory days. Other people will spend the rest of their life regretting these glory days. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to tell you one story. This was Halloween, a couple days before, in 2019, and I was challenged to do the 3 Mountain Challenge. What the 3 Mountain Challenge is, effectively, is you take 9 cups and you put them in a grid, and then you do 3 shots of rum, 3 shots of gin, and 3 shots of vodka going across. And then you do a can of Mountain Dew Original, a can of Mountain Dew Code Red, and a can of the Blue Mountain Dew. And then you make that the other part of the grid. So all 9 drinks are functionally different. And the goal is to drink these cups as fast as you can. And I actually held the record at just about 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, moving beyond that ridiculous story, there's a pretty serious divide between the prodigals and the womb to tombers. And this comes from our simply different life trajectories. Because there's things that I have done, and there's things that prodigals have done that would just simply be incomprehensible to the womb to tombers. And by that same logic, I see these kids at church and kids ministry, sprinting over to the kids ministry staff after the first worship song. And I'm thinking to myself, I have no way of understanding or relating to their experience. I mean, how would it be to be hearing the truths of the gospel, the truths of the Bible from the moment you understand English? I have no idea how to even conceptualize that. And this divide leads to different activities, different social situations. Because some of the most fun I can have is you get me, a couple other prodigals together, late night, cigars, and we're just reminiscing about the most awful, horrible things we've done or that have happened to us, and how by grace alone we chose this new path and we're on this new trajectory in life. And I've been in a million conversations like that throughout the course of the last year or so. And the womb to tombers seem to live an incredibly different lifestyle. I think the biggest factor I can see across being in many different churches over quite a long times is something as simple as board games. Like, I didn't grow up with board game culture at all, and it seems to be something that everyone there is really passionate about. And that's just one example of where you can see this divide manifest. Well, I think this comes down to a couple different things between the two groups, how they view each other. I think the first way that they really view each other is with a sense of admiration. Because you figure it's completely opposite stories. And I know the prodigals really wish they were womb to tomb. They wish they had grown up clean, they hadn't made the choices they made, they hadn't suffered the way they did or made other people suffer the way they did. And it makes sense that you'd want to wipe your slate clean and grow up the right way. Like me at 26, looking forward to being a future parent, you better believe I want my kids to grow up womb to tomb. I don't want them to have to experience a shred of the hell I went through in my life when I dealt with things that were largely out of my control. But you also have the other side of it. And this is a story I've heard more than once. Prodigals who have some kind of fascination with, womb to tombers who have some kind of fascination with how the prodigals have lived. You know, they don't prefer it, but when you hear stories and you hear about the drugs, the alcohol, the sex, the wild emotions, the out of control living, right? There's something that is inherently alluring about it if you haven't lived anything remotely similar. Like that story I told about the 3 mountain challenge. It's easy to see how that could be an enticing concept to do something that crazy, to be that grandiose, to have this insane experience. It seems alluring. Now, me being the prodigal understands the absolute damage that behavior wrought throughout my life that I barely managed to escape. But on its face, it seems enticing. And I think the other big thing here between them would be misunderstanding. Because we come from totally different backgrounds. And it could be as simple as, on a more childlike level, a goody two-shoes or a bad boy. Like those two groups just are kind of at odds with each other naturally based off of how they act, who they associate with, and everything like that. But we're fundamentally on the same team, but due to life experience, perspective, habits, tendencies, preferences, there is that dividing line. And I can tell you, in my relatively short walk with this, I have felt a struggle to relate to the other side, because it's black and white. I mean, how do you go so far over from where you were to truly understand someone who couldn't have been farther away from where you were? It's just a hard prospect to wrap your head around, and certainly to do. But we're all on the same team. We are all followers of Christ. And when you look at the Gospels, you can pretty easily see that both of these groups are well represented. So, to go over the womb to tomb side, the apostles, besides Judas, and everybody who lived in that first century Israel covenant community, they grew up with these truths. Young boys were made to study and memorize parts of the Torah. And they grew up in a way that made certainly the apostles receptive to the vision Christ was preaching. Come follow me. And they followed him. And to go into the Old Testament, Job was blameless and upright. He was doing intercession sacrifices on behalf of his children. He was walking the straight and narrow. And that's part of why what happened to him was such a historic tragedy. But we see all throughout the Gospels Christ preaching to the prodigals, the tax collectors, the sinners, the woman who washes his feet with her hair. These were considered to be the lowest of the low by the Pharisees, by the majority religious perspective in the region, all because they'd done things that were unthinkable to the other side. Things that were so dramatically wrong, so dramatically bad, that oftentimes it wasn't as if the devout Jews dabbled in it and decided it wasn't for them. They were thoroughly committed to never doing anything like that from the get-go. It's how they were raised, and when they got to the age to start believing in things themselves, they did not believe in those things. But both perspectives are represented biblically. And from the purposes of holiness or salvation or sanctification, there really truly isn't a difference. So you might think about a prodigal turning his or her life around and then going through the process of sanctification that the womb to tumor has been on since day one. It's the same sanctification, it's the same salvation. We pray to the same God, we believe in the same things. But that divide is just so stark because none of the womb to tumors would remotely consider my life choices, the journey who got me here. Me back then and them now would never remotely be friends. But that divide needs to be overcome. It's overcome from a heavenly perspective. We all believe the same thing. But in our personal relations with one another, I think this is an important bridge to gap. Because both sides have so much to offer themselves and so much to offer each other. I mean, put two of them together, a prodigal and a womb to tomb. I'm not even going to put them in the context of a romantic relationship. The prodigal has temptations, the womb to tomb doesn't. The womb to tomb has faith, the prodigal is just learning to have. The prodigal has a measure of resolution and sturdiness in their faith. So there's obstacles that the womb to tumor can experience because they don't have as big a bandwidth for suffering that the prodigal can walk beside them with, because they have a proportional understanding of just how bad things could be. And even just on the more fun side of life, the womb to tumor is reserved and the prodigal is adventurous. So you just put these two people together, try and get the bad stuff out, and suddenly you have, across all those characteristics, somewhat of a dynamic duo. People who will surprise each other, people who will be there for each other, people who will make each other's lives better. So if this divide can be bridged, I think that's going to be a better thing for my relationship with the womb to tumor, or the overall cohesion of a congregation. Because really, on the most fundamental level, we are truly not at odds. Thank you, and God bless.